Hi, everyone.
Hey, what's up, Angie?
Hi, Joel.
Nice to meet
All
you.
right. Angie, get to know everyone. Everyone get to know Angie. We are about to go live. Actually, we've gone live. We're in.
Are you in there?
Yeah, Angie.
Hi. I hear the delay.
Sweet. We are in. And Tanner's about to send this out to everyone. If you guys want to follow along on YouTube, best way to do it is on your phone. And so you can go to the Mentally channel, that's Mentor with an L-I, and then it'll show that we're live on the channel there. And so if you click on that video, then you'll be able to jump in.
I'm going to put it up on my other screen too.
Yeah, it's going to take like 30 seconds and then it'll pop up. Oh, there we are. Just make sure that it's turned down, volume down on your phone, and you won't hear the delay.
Oh, I brought it up. I'm bringing it up on my other screen, so I have to mute it, huh?
Yeah, if you mute it, that'd be great. Awesome.
Did you say it takes a second?
Yep. Well, what do you mean it takes a second? The best way to do it is on your phone if you could. Sometimes it's hard on the computer doing both screens, but if you can manage it, you'll be in good shape.
Well, if I click the live link, it just takes me to the Mentally YouTube page.
Yeah.
Meredith's getting the same thing.
Yeah, so it should go to the Meredith
I see us.
YouTube page, but then it'll have one of our videos posted right there, and you can click onto that video.
Oh, so we have to click live now?
I got it.
See Aaron?
Apparently, I'm the.
So if you just search Mentorly on YouTube, it should come.
How'd you get on it? Come here.
It just showed up. I just had to refresh several times.
Oh, okay, cool.
Righty. Well, people are coming in and starting to introduce themselves. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Improving Your Personal Brand panel with these incredible people. I'm excited to introduce them here in a minute, but if you're coming into the chat, please introduce yourself as you've done in other sessions. We'd love to hear from you. And we're going to get started with a little game before we get into things. But we're joined by Brittany Crystal Guerrera, Joel Hansen, and Angie Callan. And they'll get into a little bit about their backgrounds in a minute while folks are coming in. But this is really cool to see the YouTube channel blowing up over here and people starting to introduce themselves. I want to play a game to get started with. And so as we're getting started here, if you could go ahead and tell us where you're from. So where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in from California, right, CA. If you're coming in from a different country, I wish I was tuning in from my home country right now, South Africa. Go ahead and
Don't we all?
I know, exactly. We go down to the beach in Cape Town and just hang out a little bit. But yeah, so go ahead and put your flag there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these guys on the hot seats. And I'm going to pick a couple of random places. And I want you, each of the moderators, to tell us one memory or connection that you have with these places. So I'm going to put you in the hot seat here, one memory. So we'll start with you, Brittany. We got someone from Atlanta. Simon Lee, he's coming in from Atlanta. Simon, what's up? Brittany, what's one connection that you have with Atlanta?
One connection I have with Atlanta, my podcast manager right now is based in Atlanta, which is a big thing. And then I went to a really cool event, I want to say summer of 2017, called Breakout in Atlanta. It was based in Atlanta, and basically Breakout goes to different cities, just I think it was like quarterly or twice a year or whatever it was, and really just shines a light on entrepreneurs in that city and bringing entrepreneurs to invest in the city and start businesses. So really got to see some cool stuff in Atlanta and get to appreciate it. I know it's been raining there today because my podcast manager was saying that. So the weather's not great, but the people were cool.
Wow. Okay, that was much better than I expected. I thought it was really good. Okay, sweet. So we got Melissa. I'm gonna get even granular. We're gonna go down to Boston. Joel, give us a connection with Boston.
Connection, haven't been there in person, but was a fan of the Boston Celtics, Ray Allen, and his 3-point shots. So I'm going to put that one up and see if it lands well.
That's awesome, man. Okay, cool. I love this game. This is awesome. We got Lisa Ann Holman coming in from New Jersey. Crystal, what connection do you have to New Jersey?
Shoot. So New Jersey is one of the places that I actually haven't been, but I do love the East Coast, and I have an amazing friend here that's from New Jersey, and she speaks highly of the place, and I've heard that the food out there is great. So kind of my tie in there.
That's awesome. And isn't that, I don't know a whole lot about this, isn't that where the is it Kardashians? Are the Kardashians from New Jersey? Or
They're from Calabasas, which is where I'm from.
Oh, no
Yeah.
way. Okay, there we go. I'm not that out of touch with modern.
I thought they were from California, Luke. You and I are on the same page.
I-
And I'm even their target market demographic, and I thought that.
No, they're definitely from California, 100%, Los Angeles area.
I was gonna say, I didn't think they were from
Anyway.
Jersey.
Okay, so let's see over here. I'm gonna give you a layup here.
You're gonna give me one I've never been to, probably.
Okay.
Or no one in. What do
Okay.
you got?
Kelsey Reed. Kelsey, if you're out there, what's going on? She's coming in from Washington.
Which one?
Washington. What connection do you have with Washington, Angie?
Which one? Ironically, I grew up in a Washington, but probably not the one Kelsey said.
WA, the state,
The state?
not DC. Yeah.
That is, the Pacific Northwest is the only area of the country I have yet to go to.
The good one.
And here, I'm going to give you this is a fun tidbit that I do not really get into very often. We live in a movable tiny house, and our goal this coming spring is to go traveling through the Willamette Valley in Washington and Oregon.
No
There you
way.
go. How's that
Cool.
for a connection to Washington, or lack thereof, that I've somehow circled into a connection?
you got our back. Okay. I got one, and this is gonna be crazy. But you guys can all answer this. Anyone, so Vaibhav Aurora is coming in from New Delhi, India. What connection do you have with New Delhi? Has anyone been to New Delhi? Anyone had a friend from New Delhi or India?
I think so. I love Indian food. It's like in the top favorites of foods that I like to eat, but it's definitely on the bucket list to still make it out that way.
That's awesome. We'll test you. If you think of anything, interrupt me and we'll get going. But ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited to be with these incredible branding and personal branding experts. And so we're going to pick their brain tonight. I'm going to ask them some really hard questions that are pertaining to you and the current state that you're in right now and what you're thinking about. But I need your help. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to kick things off with. But you guys are going crazy in the comments here, just talking to us, and I'm loving seeing where you're all from. Please keep asking questions as we go throughout this. Keep telling us what you'd like to hear, and we'll dive into that. We'll double click on things, and we'll go from there. But to kick things off, can you each give us a little bit of background on your experience, how, your background, what are you doing right now? Maybe we'll start with Brittany again, and we can just go around in a circle.
Okay, I'll try to keep this quick. My name is Brittany Crystal. I'm a personal brand expert, and I specialize in teaching entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial minded how to build an authentic, influential brand online that creates the results that you want in your life and business. I also host a top-rated podcast called Beyond Influential, where I do in-depth, no BS conversations and interviews with, I love actionable interviews with the most influential names across industries. So that way you can actually learn how it's done from people who have actually walked the walk and not just talk the talk. I've had the unique experience of having built brand for others before I built brand for myself, and then learning how to teach it. And so I kind of have all of those phases, and at different, I've seen brand building at the highest level. I worked with Gary Vee, and so I was on his personal brand team, to also having to do it myself and with solopreneurs and kind of all phases of people. And just to go back before this, I'm not someone who just like decided, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur and kind of just decided this was my thing. I have worked for many organizations and many companies and kind of went through many Goldilocks phases. I'm technically a lawyer. I worked in entertainment. I've worked at some big Hollywood agencies. I worked at VaynerMedia. So I'm very familiar with, having to get a job and that whole experience of how to pivot. And so for anybody out there who's not sure what they want to be doing or what's next for them, I promise it'll be okay. We'll get through it.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement. And if you're in the chat, I know that there are a ton of recruiters here, and they're joining these events. So if you're looking for an opportunity, give us a little clap or a high five emoji or something like that, and we'll have some recruiters reach out to you. Do the same in the Slack channel. I know it's been going crazy. We've got close to 2,000 people in the Slack channel. People are introducing themselves there all the time, and so. Go ahead and put yourself out there. This is the perfect opportunity to do it in a community that wants to see you succeed. Joel, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, for sure. I just, with the pen, wrote down Brittany's podcast, so I'm definitely going to check that out. I was, born and raised in Vancouver, and my kind of intersection with marketing, social media, and kind of the world of personal branding really started when I was a student. And realizing that a degree and the right qualifications didn't always equal up to the right job opportunity. And I just kind of started, using LinkedIn and social media to build relationships, to host interviews, and ultimately to learn outside the classroom. And one thing led to the next, and people started tapping me on the shoulder to see how I could help them build their LinkedIn or their personal brand. And I kind of started opening those conversations. But my full-time role is with a private equity firm here in Vancouver. And then I also have done a TEDx talk and kind of help speak and advise people on how to build a personal brand that really builds relationships before meeting them in person. And so that's kind of a bit about myself.
Wow, that's awesome, Joel. And can you do us a favor? I know you got the chat up on the link.
Yeah.
On your phone, can you paste your TEDx talk in the chat for people to go and check it out? That would be awesome. I know folks would love to see that. Is that Vancouver behind you as well there, that little picture?
I'm actually not too sure. It might be Whistler. There's
Okay.
kind of like a mountain a couple hours from Vancouver.
You're killing me, Joel.
What's up?
Oh, I live in Aspen and I'm a huge skier, so you're killing me right now.
Yeah.
It's
So I'm not too sure. Yeah, but wasn't the best season this year, so we'll have to wait till next year.
Yeah, here
right.
too.
Well, 2020 wasn't great for a lot of things.
That's right.
True words never said, Luke.
Yeah, Crystal, tell us a little bit about your background. What are you up to now?
Sure. So my name is Crystal Guerra. I'm actually based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. So for those of you that love to ski, I definitely recommend you check us out in the winter. I specialize in B2B tech. So I've been in the tech space, specifically software as a service, for a little over 10 years now, always focused in marketing. Like I said, heavy emphasis on B2B. I also have my own media agency, which is Guerra Media. So I work a lot with women in business groups. I also do speaking engagements, working with youth and preparing for adulthood. Branding is something that I've had a chance to not only see at a corporate level, but also at a personal level. I've been through several rebrand transitions, also have raised funding as well. So familiar with the venture capital space there for anyone who's either looking to launch their business and wants to learn a little bit more about the investment side of things. So I do work full time as a director of demand gen for a B2B tech company here focused in ed tech. And so COVID's been interesting for us in that sense. It's a good time to be in the ed tech space as everyone's had to go online. So it's been fun. And then I've done everything from, just all different types of social media platforms. And like I said, really focused on women in business groups and women of color, helping them rise into positions of leadership.
That's awesome, Crystal. Thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to give a shout out to the chat here. Everyone putting themselves out there and saying, hey, you know, I'm here to learn. I'm here to get help, and putting your hand up. We're going to help you. And if you have questions, let us know. We want to hear them. So thank you so much for putting yourselves out there and being here tonight. Angie, tell us a little bit about your background. I know a lot of folks have engaged with you before the event in some of these information sessions that we've done, but for those folks who don't know you, give us a little bit of an idea of where you're from.
Yeah, if you're not sick of seeing my face and hearing my voice over a video screen, I'll tell you once again. So I founded a company called Career Benders almost 3 years ago, and we focus on career coaching, resume writing, and essentially kind of career job seeker services. So my perspective in personal branding is definitely in the professional light, particularly when working through a job search or other kind of professional growth aspects, whether it's a level up, whether it is kind of how does a career fit into entrepreneurship and kind of that whole big picture. And it's interesting because I think all of us have a little bit of a common overlap in either like experiencing the building of multiple brands, either in a job or for ourselves. And my perspective on career coaching and personal branding definitely comes from my own direct experience in essentially reinventing myself as a professional 3 times so far in life. So I started my career as a civil engineer, and I have a lot of alignment with the tech world when it comes to coaching, simply because of that technical background. There was a kind of a natural gravitation there when I started a career coaching business in the Colorado market, and Denver is a tech hub. Kind of was a happy accident. I didn't even plan that one. And then I practiced for about 8 years. I lived in Boston, so that would have been a great connection. That would have been a great question for me. And then I had the opportunity to transfer through the company I worked for to the mountains of Colorado. So I've had the opportunity to live in Breckenridge for 2 years, and then have lived in the Aspen Valley for the last 10 years. And so I'm no stranger to world-class skiing. And so when I left engineering, it was kind of post-recession, because the recession tanked that whole industry, and it just was not fun anymore. And I'm like, okay, this is time. And I ended up landing very unexpectedly in the nonprofit sector, where I was an executive director of an organization for about 5 years. And that's really when I tapped into a lot of my strengths as kind of a business person and entrepreneur, and knew that it was time to step out into my own experience in business. And the kind of stars aligned, and I was introduced to the career coaching specialty of the coaching world. And it really made a lot of sense because of my own personal journey and perspectives on professional development in the marketplace today. So
that's awesome, Angie. Thank you so much for sharing. And I, you know, for those folks that are listening in here, I want you to look at this group of people that we've assembled as your bench of all-star career and personal branding coaches. This is like a 40-minute session that you have with them. You literally have direct access through the chat to be able to chat to them and ask them questions. They're all looking at their phones and listening to you chat right now. And the reason why I say that is because they come from such different backgrounds. You heard them on the company side. They've had really good experience in helping brand companies. On an individual level, collectively, like tens of thousands of followers between them, and some amazing branding that has gone into that. And then also, you know, on the job search side, a lot of you are looking for jobs. There's a wealth of experience on that end. But I'm curious, with a couple of you to talk to, maybe Brittany, if you could even answer this, like, how did you build your personal brand? Like, you know, when you think ground level, you either coming out of college or you feel like you're really getting started in your career, like what were some of the things that you did to get to where you're at right now?
Well, just for context, like Facebook started when I was in college. So this world and this role that I'm in did not exist at the time when I was graduating. Personal branding, as we are looking at it and thinking about it today, didn't exist, but personal branding is a super old concept. Before, it was really, I mean, it's your reputation. It's what a brand evolves. A brand is more about an experience and a feeling. It's how people feel about you when, you know, you enter a room, when you're not in the room. It's all of those aspects. When somebody Googles you, it's what you find now. So it really has moved online. And so you definitely need to take care of it, which is why I specialize on doing it online. But as far as my own personal brand, before it was where you went to school. and having that resume and having certain people vouch for you. Like I went the safe route. I went to UCLA for undergrad. I graduated early from school. I went to Georgetown for law school. I got past the bar. I did all the things that you were supposed to do to be, in quotes, successful. And I happened to be in school, you know, during the recession, basically in law school. And I was looking around and, you know, everybody was miserable anyway. I even had a job. I had a great job that I was supposed to be really happy to have. And I was looking around and I was like, I cannot imagine this for the rest of my life. And then just to kind of fast forward through it, what I wanted to do was work in entertainment and television, which now is really also moved online too. Basically what I was doing is content development and personal development strategy, but before it became a thing. And so I was working in entertainment, and that's another industry where it's not about your credentials, it's about who you know. And so figuring out how to get in the doors there and all of that. At the end of the day though, in Hollywood, whoever had the power owned your name. And so I'm really big on right now having everybody control their own story, their own narrative, putting yourself in a position of power. And now we have that ability where 5-10 years ago, you really didn't have that. In Hollywood, if somebody in power did not like you, that was really the end of your career. And now we've seen this entire shift. So anybody who is here, you are in the best possible time to create something new, to do whatever, to create that proof. And so for me, I went through that whole evolution of, I was told after law school, oh, you'd have to go get an MBA, or you can't get into Hollywood, you don't have XYZ experience. Nope, I was able to get in the door. And then I was told I was going to have to get an MBA to go into marketing when entertainment wasn't for me.
Oh, don't get me started on that,
Yeah.
Brittany.
Oh my gosh. So I was actually studying, I'll just tell you guys, I was studying for the GMAT, and my now husband was like, you don't need to do that. And he sent me, I didn't know who Gary Vee was. This was 2014. I was miserable I was working at a network television job. And he sent me a Gary Vee tweet, and it was just like opening an LA office. And I was like, no one gets a job through a website, because every job I had to like network and schmooze and do the whole thing. And I applied for a job. I picked off the website that I was hoping I could get and might be qualified for, even though I had no technical marketing experience. And it changed my life. It changed everything. Started working at Vayner. Gary moved me to New York, and then that evolved. But basically, I learned about personal branding. I'll try to keep this short. Really, Gary moved me out to work on his personal brand. He was like, I'm going to get really serious about my personal brand. I think you know something about influence, and I just have a feeling. Give me a year. And so I moved out to New York after I was like, I never want to live in New York again. And my thought was, I'm going to pitch this man on a startup idea at the end of my year. And instead, I fell in love with personal branding, because in the process of helping build his brand as part of a small team at the time, I got to learn and touch everything. And I saw what an impact he made, basically just being himself and putting out this content that we were helping distribute. The feedback was just so insane. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. And then I realized that you could replicate it with other people. And I kind of went down the path of doing that. And so then I started taking on other clients. And as I was writing for Gary and kind of making content for him, I realized I had opinions and thoughts on these things. I had insights. I have to put my money where my mouth is. So I started doing that too. And so then my brand kind of started evolving, and I started the podcast and started posting on LinkedIn, and people started asking me to speak and all the other great things that happened. So long story longer.
Well, the thing that I love about this story is that it seems like you recognize that at some point that personal branding wasn't just like marketing, right? Like it's not like hey, we got this company, we got to figure out how to like spin it to people. At some point it was like, this is just being me, but like in a digital world, and putting it out there. And so, can maybe somebody else talk a little bit about like how you've been able to be you, and that it doesn't have to be on like a large scale, like millions of views, whatever it is, but like how have you been you on social media and in the workplace?
Luke, I'm going to jump in because I want to reinforce something that Brittany said at the very beginning of that, and you just tried to echo, but it's really, really important. Whether you're talking about a business or yourself, your brand is not a logo, it's not your colors, it's not your tagline, and it's not your resume. It is who you are as a whole package, who you're going to be when you walk in on the interview, who is the person that they want to hire, what are your values, what are your strengths, who is the person? That is your brand. And that is a very, very important thing to remember because it transcends what you post online and what you put in a written document. It is your being. And that's true whether it's you or your business, right? Your customer service ideals in a business become part of your brand. For me, the way I have built my brand is by being me. I am overly direct. I figured out how to be tactfully so. I have now known for being very, very opinionated. And in a society where we have to kind of tiptoe and walk on eggshells to be, you know, truthful with people and authentic, it has really resonated to know that somebody can come to me and get an honest, truthful opinion based on factual evidence in the market. And so and I say this, whether it's interviewing or whatever it is, the best foot you can put forward, the best response to an interview question, the best brand you can be is your authentic you.
And one more
Sometimes
thing,
it just needs a pretty bow on top. But
I just have to jump in because Angie said it perfectly. The more me I've been, the more successful I've been, 100%. And people come to me because I'm transparent, I'm no BS, they know what they're getting. And it is so much easier if you don't have to fake it, and so much easier to hire the right people or to be looking for the right people. You know what you're getting. And people, I know when with jobs, you're so used to like kind of putting a veneer on things. You really don't need to do it. You're going to be unhappy in some kind of culture fit that doesn't work for you. So
exactly.
Anyway, I totally agree with you.
No, it's totally true. And and we're going to get to LinkedIn. I know we are. And Joel's going to have opinions on this, but I started my entire brand by going on LinkedIn, posting my authentic opinions on things and commenting on people's posts. One comment on a post is what got me my first paid client. And it was because I put my true authentic opinion out there in the voice that really just came naturally to put out there.
I love this. So I planned on a couple different other things, but I want to do this right now. A lot of these panels, we just talk generally about things and everyone leaves feeling inspired, but they can't go and do anything. We have got a board of people here that are just fantastic at LinkedIn and YouTube and videos and you know, at creating podcasts. Joel, I'm curious to hear from you, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You have you know, I think it's like 27,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I love your posts, I love your content. Tell us some actionable things. Like, what are a couple like things that you would recommend to someone that's starting out at the ground level to start doing to gain the momentum to put their authentic selves out there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, to start, I mean, amazing comments from the first two that shared, and I'm already so inspired. But I think a couple like tactical things I would share that I first learned when I was a student was LinkedIn is a two-way dialogue, not a one-way shouting platform. So make it about facilitating a conversation, make it about, you know, asking for feedback, asking for questions, because at the end of the day, people want to have a two-way conversation. They don't just want to listen to you preach about a topic. And so I think make it a conversation. That'd be point number one. And then I think point number two would be understanding that, just like Angie said, what you can talk about on social media goes so much further than just the role, the title that you have. And so, you know, build that comfort level. If you have a direct report, if you have a manager, you know, bring up in your next one-on-one, hey, I'm just really trying to branch out on social media and learn. I still love what I do, but you have that relationship where now you can go out and say, you know, I'm working on this. I have questions about this. I've just learned this. This is a conflict I've overcome. And just don't, you know, limit yourself to just a boring post or a boring conversation, but actually get comfortable with testing, with failing, with A/B kind of application theories. And then the third one would be just understanding that LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever platform you have, use it as a tool and not a be all end all. The number of followers, the number of impressions is great, but at the end of the day, it's just feedback of what is resonating with the audience. And your goal needs to be off the platform. You need to be able to sit down with your friends or family, work on projects outside of the platform, but use it as a tool to kind of navigate decisions or ideas you're thinking on. So those are our three. I hope they're tactical and applicable, but feel free to jump in if I'm missing things from these other experts here.
Joel.
Takeaway is to use the platform.
Yeah.
So for any of you that came to the virtual communications presentation that we did a couple weeks ago, I mean, 90%, there's probably a stat on this, but I like to throw out random numbers. 90% of the people on LinkedIn are passive users with a profile picture that maybe you can see if you're a second level connection and a title that says what they do. If you can move from passive profile to power user, you will revolutionize your personal brand and your professional opportunities.
Big time. Joel, I'm interested to drill down on that a little bit and get super tactical. So like, you know, I know everyone, if somebody's going to come away from this session and be like, yes, I'm doing it. They're going to run through walls and start to do things. But like if you were starting from ground zero right now, like are you going to go and plan a post a day, like in the morning, like, you know, or you know, when do you post? What do you actually do? Do you create like a little plan for yourself? Like how would you do it if you were wanting to get, you know, posting things out there and sharing your personal brand? Like how would you actually do it?
Yeah, for sure. I think it comes down to 3 avenues that I think I'd recommend, which would be, of course, finishing your profile and starting to share your thoughts. That's kind of that first avenue. The second one would be engaging and listening to the community that you're a part of. And then the third one would be that engagement cross-dialogue piece of, okay, you have your profile, you're now listening to others. Now's the magic of where you should message other people, you know, compliment others, build relationships, think outside the box, be creative. And my first piece of advice to start, if you want a really low-hanging fruit, is grab a screenshot of this conversation right now. Tag the people that are here. You know, there's so many great folks, and you can say one takeaway you got from this conversation, something you learned from the Get Hired conference, and you can tag the speakers, the organizers, just to thank them and start that conversation. Hopefully that helps. And I think if you keep those kind of 3 avenues in line, just like Angie said, you'll be really surprised at the opportunities that can surface just by really showing up and starting to share on the platform.
Thanks, Joel. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually, so I want you to take this, and this is super hard, and I don't know how to surface this, but there's a comment that's really real on the chat here, and he's saying, you know, what if you went through burnout and you experienced depression? You maybe feel like you've lost your authenticity. How can you reinvent your brand? How can you refresh? My heart goes out to you, man. I know what that's like. Like I'm great. Like just to kind of come out of the session here real quick. I am working super hard on building mentally our company, and at times I've experienced burnout, and it is so tough to be able to get back online and feel like, you know, sometimes you feel like you want to go and just fake it because you don't want to be yourself. But I'm curious, Crystal, like what advice you would have for someone going through a situation like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's super important to always check in with yourself. Definitely. That's something that I've kind of learned to do just over my career. And one thing that I've gotten in the mindset of is playing for the long term and being very patient. And I think patience is one of the hardest things to practice, especially when you're, you know, wanting to compare yourself to someone's chapter 29 and you're in chapter 1. And I think a lot of times burnout comes from the active comparison and taking on maybe too much at once and wanting to do all the things all the time. So I would say, you know, feel free to unplug and definitely disconnect. I think one thing that, you know, LinkedIn is great. I use LinkedIn. I like to diversify my platforms. I think a lot of people think Instagram is the number one thing you've got to be on. But I actually see a lot of success in Facebook, and I have different audiences and different people that like to engage and interact with me in different ways. And so it could just be that, you know, maybe you just need to take a break and, you know, not have so many plates spinning at once. And then ask yourself, what is it that really makes me happy? What is it that I'm truly passionate about? Because I feel like a lot of times we find ourselves getting caught up in the game and doing things that aren't really, making us happy at the end of the day. And so for me, even when opportunities come my way, I am not in the habit of saying yes to everything. Even if it's a collaboration opportunity or I'm going to be published or recognized, I've gotten really, really good at checking in with myself, making sure that I am putting, myself as a priority and allowing, things to kind of fill in where they can. And then just knowing that I'm not going anywhere. Again, play this for the long term. It's okay that it's going to take you another year or 2 years. Not everything has to happen at once. And in fact, my success in my career has come from just showing up and being consistent and, a step at a time and a day at a time. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I would recommend.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And I would just say this, man. Thank you so much for being authentic and telling us a little bit about your situation. And thank you so much, everyone else, for your comments and encouragement there. If you're experiencing depression, you're experiencing burnout, social media or branding, this is not the answer. This is not an opportunity to like fix your problem or fill a gap or even show people that you're okay when you're really not. There's an opportunity to get real help and talk to people who are professionals in that space. When we talk about social media and branding and everything that we've got going on over here, this is an opportunity to talk about our careers and all of those different things. But if you're struggling personally, take the opportunity to fix that, and you can come back to this at any other time. So yeah, I guess I wanted to get tactical with a little bit with LinkedIn. Are there other things that you guys are doing outside of what Joel mentioned earlier on LinkedIn to actually get traction with your personal brand and to start communicating with the folks that you want to talk to?
I'll kind of jump in on that a little bit as well. So I think that it's important to be intentional with the communities that you build, the platforms that you build. So one thing that I've gotten good at is just aligning what my brand is. So I work a lot with the Latino Hispanic community. And so, like you find hashtags on social media, I use those a lot on LinkedIn as well. Or I do keyword searches for things that I'm passionate about or that align with my brand. And then that's actually how I find a lot of people to then connect with, whether it's Latinas in tech out of California, different women in business groups that are happening. I think that, your intention is so important. And a lot of times people are passive, not in just how they post, but actually in how they network. And so for me, it's great to make sure that I'm still being mindful of, whatever platform I'm on, that I'm working with the types of people that I'm looking to attract and collaborate and work with. And so from a LinkedIn standpoint, that's a strategy that's worked really well for me. And again, I think one, just use LinkedIn, because I don't think that enough people see the value in LinkedIn. Because I'm familiar with it because it's a professional setting that I've always worked in. I've always done recommendations through there, found a lot of great connections through there. But I think in this day and age, a lot of people think of YouTube, they think of Instagram, maybe a little bit of Facebook. You've got TikTok, right? There's all these platforms, but I think that LinkedIn has an undervalued seat at the table because it is a completely different audience a lot of times. And some of my best connections have come from random LinkedIn posts and likes and follows. So,
Brittany, can you talk to that a little bit?
I actually want to address one of the comments that I see because I'm looking at the comments on,
Yeah,
on YouTube. And it says, this chat is so interesting. Most people are not looking for personal branding techniques per se, but looking for clarity in their choice and definition of their identity. I feel like there's a huge
totally stole it, Brittany. That was exactly where I was going with this.
So like the very first thing I do with anybody I speak to, the very first place you start is with clarity. I have a whole thing. I have a clarity course. It's literally called the Clarity Course. If you buy my LinkedIn course, it is the first area you start. And clarity comes from action. The most important thing when I talk to people about LinkedIn is being very clear, because personal branding ultimately is not about you, but it is about you. And so it kind of, they inform each other. So you need to be very clear what's in it for them and that you're the right person for them. But that comes with you starting to get clear on yourself first. And just in general, when you're commenting, let's say, because I saw somebody else posting about getting caught up about content. On LinkedIn, comments count as content and engagement counts as content. So I would make sure, like, tactically, I would have a very clear profile picture. I would have a very clear headline, and I would spend at least 20 minutes a day engaging with people that you want in your audience. Like, that is actionable, that is tactical. That's where you start. You can download the free checklist on my site, like whatever you want, but that is like, clarity is number one. And Angie, sounds like you have something to add for that.
Well, I also love that advice I give people is validated by other people with credibility, because you basically just like took words right out of my mouth, even down to the spend 20 minutes a day interacting with your network. And I think here's the bottom line is you can take all this tactical advice. It is for naught if you don't know why you're deploying the tactical advice and what you are trying to build street cred around. So without clarity of the brand that you are, the brand you want to be, or the professional foot you want to put forward, or what you want to be known for, and the personality that you want to have, all of your communications are going to seem really, really kind of jumbled and scrambled, and the effort, it becomes diluted. And I completely agree with you, Brittany. I mean, I saw that exact. I haven't read all of them, but that one was one I actually sat there and found, and I started linking it up with this idea that like you can do all these tactics, but they don't work unless you have clarity. And
Correct.
From a career perspective, I often tell people lack of clarity in a job search or in your professional career goals and growth is usually more detrimental than your process than a bad resume.
Yeah, but then people feel like, and I see this all of the time, they either don't want to be pigeonholed or they're not sure if this is the thing. And so the only way to know is to try something and then be networking. You start engaging with people, do your homework. And that goes with networking and meeting people. And then you might think you want like one thing, and then you talk to a bunch of people like I should have done before I went to law school. I probably should have spent some time with some lawyers and talked to them. And that would have saved me a lot of time. There is so much time to be saved. Just the more conversations you can have, the more clear you'll get.
And it's going to evolve. As humans, we're little baby businesses. We're little individual businesses. My brand 2.5 years ago was a terrible orange color and a crappy clip art logo with the tagline, "Shape Your Future." And it has evolved to match what I have now found as my voice and my target audience. And we as individuals are, it's going to happen the exact same way.
I always say that too. Angie and I are going to be best friends after this.
I know.
You might have to have a podcast.
The West Coast version of me.
Awesome. Hey guys, we've come close to the end of our time. I'm loving this chat, and there are still tons of questions in the chat over here. Do you guys mind if we go over a couple minutes?
No, and just real quick though to Luke, so I will stay for a little while. We're doing booth hours as soon as this is over.
That's
so
right.
As far as I might let everybody else share more, because if anybody in the chat wants to jump into the booth and follow up on specific correct questions, because there's lots of career stuff here, we'll have an opportunity to connect that one-on-one stuff. But I mean, I could sit here and do this for 3 days, because as we know, my brand is to have unlimited opinions. So yes, I will stay for a little bit longer. Okay,
I'll ask 2 questions. That's it. And then we can move on to all of that. But there are just some fantastic questions. The one question that I loved was just, what's one way that you can measure your success? What you measure improves. But in personal branding, how do you guys measure your success? And somebody who's, maybe looking for a job, getting started out, wanting to brand themselves a little bit better, like how should they be measuring their success in their personal brand?
Not in followers.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a lot of, not to knock people that have strong followings, but oftentimes it's an empty number. And I think that, social media, I was actually on with a client right before I came in here who's young, and we were discussing how the kind of Facebook generation has been mentally challenged, but mentally, emotionally challenged by the presence of technology in their life, because you're always in an overly critical light. And so just the size of your network does not necessarily dictate the power of your network. And so there's, I think, a false sense of security in, a K after your following.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. So Joel has a big following. Joel, do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
Definitely agree with Angie. And I wouldn't want to fight her in a debate. I know she would take me down. So, but I have
not like I'm jealous of it a little bit, but
I have a fun challenge for the speakers and people tuning in here. Something I like to challenge myself to is actually like an output deliverable, or even like a failure deliverable versus like a success metric. Case example would be if I'm looking for a role in tech, and I'm going to use LinkedIn to, connect about conversations. A goal I could set for myself is I'm going to send 10 personal invites or 10 messages per day, and let's just see what happens. Let's put it on a Google Sheet, check in weekly. Each week, that's going to be 70 outreach messages. And then after a week or two, let's evaluate out of those 70 or 140 messages, what came back as a success. But make the measurable the output rather than getting the job, because the output evaluation will actually dictate, was this a success, or should I try TikTok and do something else? Mm-hmm. And I think take the pressure off the success, put it on the process. And I think that's a very great non-pressure way to go about finding results. And
I would just kind of echo that. I love, I do love science. Grew up watching Bill Nye, but there is a law of physics. Yeah, right. There's a law of physics that states, an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force. And I think that if you can just get in the habit of being committed to being action oriented, and so be very cautious. Success for some people could mean monetary gains, and so maybe your KPI is that you want to make more income this year than you made last year. That it's good to have some of those things, and you have to ask yourself, what does success look like for you? For me, and what has led to me getting more opportunities has really just been being committed to the process and being committed to taking some form of action. I do a lot of live person events. I'm a big believer in being, face to face. And I feel like a lot of times, people remember or think of me only because I've consistently shown up over the years. And it's just, there's so much to be said in just being present, or taking some of those digital connections that you make and then turning them to face. I do a lot of coffee meetings, a lot of quick meetings. And so it's not just connecting with people in a digital format, but then how does that expand to really growing that relationship? And so I love what Joel said about, having some type of activity that you're tracking against. And for me, that was like one social event a week that was, committed to growing and expanding my network or related to my brand. And so that's something that's also really just made a difference.
That's awesome. Hey guys, we're going to wrap things up here, but I wanted to go around one last time and ask you what messages of hope you have for these folks that are on the chat right here. There's a lot of them, and they're going through the grind right now, looking for a job. They're looking to improve their, and just maybe a short sentence or two, piece of hope that you can offer to them, and maybe a thought, and then while you're thinking of that, for everyone else that's here on the chat, go and register. The first session we're getting kicked off with tomorrow is Austin Balsack. He's incredible. He presented at the last Get Higher Summit. He's going to be doing it this summit, and he's going to be talking about how to land a job through a pandemic. And he has some incredible actionable things that you can do right there and then in the presentation that you can take home. So if you haven't yet, go to the agenda and register for his session. But Brittany, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts? Final.
There were so many, but it is all doable. You can find something that you like and work with the right people. And if that evolves, which it will evolve, that is perfectly fine. Personal branding, even I was thinking about the burnout conversation. We're in a year where I've talked to so many people who are anxious and burnt out and depressed and all of these things. And what people want is human connection. So if you are comfortable sharing those thoughts in a way that feels comfortable for you, I think making it not about you and serving others will always come back to you and help you find the people that you really want to be working with. And I think you'll find way more community the more you can lean into. And so I would just continue being you and finding those people. It sounds so trite, but it is exactly what works. So yeah, just practice being yourself online.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brittany. Joel?
Comment I like to share with others kind of in closing is as long as you are genuine and respectful and you're sending a creative message, the worst that can happen is they say no or they don't respond. But do it in such a respectful way that if they screenshot it and show it on a PowerPoint in 5-10 years at the board meeting, that it doesn't matter. Like, you're being respectful, you're having fun. And if it comes back with a yes or a phone call, that could be your next job. That could be your next opportunity. So balance those genuine and kind of creativity with ease. And then the second would be if you want to practice on someone sending a message or asking a question, feel free to send me a note or anyone else here. And I know that they'd be happy to edit, give feedback, and help you along the way.
That's awesome. And I'll add to that, Joel, have you been able to post your TEDx link here?
It's a bit up there, but if you can send me a note or we can share it later, I'll maybe try and drop it again.
That'd be awesome. And then Brittany, I know that you have a course, right, that you help people go through. If you could pop that in the comments too, or
Oh yeah, I'll pop my website because you can download whatever for free or check out the podcast or just kind of creep on me.
Yeah, let's do some creeping. Then Crystal, yeah, tell us a little bit about your parting thoughts for these folks.
Yeah, definitely. I would say apply what makes sense. And like I said, oftentimes with branding, you're looking at everyone else's pages, you're looking at other websites, and you spend so much time thinking, about all the things you want to do. And I would just say focus more on doing. And throughout that process, as you're being action oriented, there'll be so much stuff that kind of comes to fruition as you're going through the process. And I think so many people get hung up on the where do I start, where do I begin, I need to figure out my colors and all of that. And I just say just get started. So apply what makes sense. And then one of my favorite acronyms, which is WIN, which is just focus on what's important now. So that WIN, what's important now. And give it time, be patient with yourself. It's okay that it takes you a little bit longer, but it's so important to remain true to yourself. As everyone has said, that authenticity factor is key. People say cash is king. I always say character is king. And so to me, it's more important that I do things coming from the right place and from the right intention. So other than that, there's plenty to Google out there, and there's a lot of great people that are willing to talk and share their experiences. So don't be afraid to reach out for sure.
Big time. Thank you so much, Crystal. Angie, what would you say?
Take us home.
Take us home.
Oh, which ones would I pick? I'm gonna go two short parts with this. The first thing is, one of the reasons that Career Vendors has the tagline of inspiring confident professionals is because I find that all professionals struggle with confidence. And one of the things I think is very, very important to know right now with the current state of craziness that we live in is that we can't do anything about what was. And we can't necessarily drastically control the future except for what our parts to play are. And to that extent, it is very important to remember that specifically when it comes to job searching, it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. It's not a flipping light switch. It is a process, and you must trust it and have patience in order to get through it. And it is also a roller coaster of a marathon, and one that many of us would really just want to pull into the station and get off and park with a cup of popcorn for the rest of our lives. However, if you can find a consistent baseline of mental stability and emotional sustainability throughout the ups and downs that are rejection letters, calls, they ghost you, whatever it is, you will be able to weather the storm and get through the marathon with a lot more endurance than if you're just and with a much, much better outcome than if you were really just trying to fast track the result and find a silver bullet.
Thank you so much, Angie. And thank you so much, everyone else. Drop the mic. We went over. We'll let you get to your sessions now. But thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. And we posted the links to our different LinkedIn profiles to connect with us there. Go and visit our various websites. I know some folks on the call here have a lot of offers, so take them up on those offers. And then join us tomorrow. It's going to be a fantastic day. Tons of employers. Couple that I'm really excited about. So otherwise, we'll see you then. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.